When looking for the king of podcasts, you're at the wrong channel.
Well, excuse me!
Looking for good ideas for life? You're far from good hands.
Hey, bud, what's your problem?
If you think the listener is always right, you're far from the right place.
Out of order! Even in the future, nothing works!
Hosted by a Northeasterner by birth, but a rebel by choice.
Are you threatening me?
If you want a host that floats between love and madness,
and we know the night is always gonna be here anyway. Thinking of you's working up my appetite. Looking forward to a little afternoon delight.
then play on and listen to Crazy Train Radio.
All right, guys, listen to this blues riff and B. Watch me for the changes and try and keep up, okay?
Within the gaming world, there are your general gamers, but then there are those that enjoy the dark underbelly of gaming. If you're one of those that enjoy the dark underbelly of gaming, we certainly got the place to send you. Scorpion Lair Games. That's right, Scorpion Lair Games is the creators of the true crime hit Killers, the card game. Let's not forget they also have Killers Clothing Company, their profiler game, and things like the 5-Minute Murder channel on YouTube. And we certainly can't forget the new book that is certainly a hit, Beyond the Headliners, True Crimes, Myths, and Legends. Make sure you visit Jeff and the Scorpion Lair Games on Facebook and everywhere today.
Hello, this is Tony Cecere. I want you to know you're listening to Crazy Train Radio.
Hey folks, it's your least favorite host in the podcast world, Croc, Jonathan Steele. And boy, do we have a good one for you today.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this next guest is a retired former actor, stunt performer, stunt coordinator, and occasional director that has been in some of the popular films that we all know and love, whether it be Swamp Thing, Star Trek, The Wrath of Khan, some little John Carpenter movie, The Thing in '82, Ghostbusters in '84, A Nightmare on Elm Street, and many others. And he is like the other stunt person you hear me talk about often, being safety first with his career. But let me go ahead and welcome Mr. Tony Cecere.
Hello.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Tony, how are you, sir? Where are you currently?
I'm fine. I'm in Hamilton, Ohio.
Okay, so you're Midwest. That makes sense because of doing the horror hound stuff and all with your daughters. And I know the folks, our regular listeners, have heard this, but Tony's daughters have a little claim to fame themselves within the horror world. And we are getting directions as we move along with Tony pointing different directions. But as I was saying, his daughters are in a little film that he was a part of, stunt-wise, and as a coordinator, A Nightmare on Elm Street, as they were the Jump Rope Girls. And you can go back in our show archives and hear that episode as well. But his daughters made this happen today. So, Tony, thank you, and hope you're doing okay.
You're welcome. Doing fine. It's a little cold here, but after living in California for so many years, I'm not used to this cold yet.
Yeah, exactly. I've been Northeast, and before we started here, I was just chit-chatting with your daughter, catching up with things and all. And I was out in California, and I went out right after the first big snowstorm came across the country.
Yes.
And then I came back to 14-degree weather as well. So it was,
What?
it was one of these things is not like the other, because I went from 14 degrees when I left, 73 when I landed, and came back to 13 and 14 degrees. So it's like, what am I doing here? But anyway.
Who was the stunt guy you met out there?
Oh, that stunt guy that's been a friend for years. His name is Anthony DeLongis.
Oh, okay.
Anthony focuses on weapons like swords, guns, the bullwhip.
So when you need a specialist, he's one of the guys you call that's a specialist on a lot of the weapons that they have.
Yeah, and he also has the old school mentality with like older weapons of history as well. So he's one of those guys, like you said, you tag in if you need somebody who knows that material.
About weapons, yeah.
Yeah, and I say this about Anthony. I've told this privately, so when I shot him a text, whenever we text, I go, he's like 75 years old, looks like he's 54 years old, and that son of a bitch will outlive us all. I credit that to his wife. His wife is apparently a great cook, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But it's one of those, he's that guy to outlive us all.
Yeah, he will.
Yeah, Anthony's a great dude, though, so. I guess the obvious question for you is, when did you have an interest in getting involved with the business? But also, how did you get into the business?
Well, I moved to California after getting out of the Marine Corps because I didn't want to work in a factory anymore. So I moved into San Diego. I was trying to become an electrician. All the electricians were on a strike. So I went up to Los Angeles, and I told my wife then, we'd just been married about 6 or 7 months, and I said, in Los Angeles, as long as you work an 8-hour day, I said, and put in a good day's work, you can always find a job up there. I started out as a bartender, and where I started out as a bartender, the guys at the bar were working out at a gym in Santa Monica on weekends. So he told me about that, and I started working out at a gym called Paul Stater's Gym in Santa Monica. And I started doing stunts there. Me and the other guys there would go out and we would buy a motorcycle, practice wrecking it. We would buy an old car, take it out in the desert, practice sliding it or turning it over. And just progressed over the years. And after about 5 years of doing that, I got a break on, the first thing I did was, what was his name?
Black Caesar?
No, that was the first stunt show.
Robert Blake?
Was with Robert Blake on Beretta. I worked there for a few years, and then me and Blake had some misunderstandings, but he had a lot of misunderstandings. And after about a year there, I was going to quit the show, and Blake talked me into staying. And then the next day he fired me. But that was kind of a blessing, because when he fired me, I was able to draw unemployment. And in the movie industry, you're only employed for a length of a movie. Then after that, you're on unemployment. So from there out, I went out on my own and started doing stunts on different shows. The first thing I can actually recall was a show called Black Caesar with Fred Williams. That's one of
the former football player, correct?
Yes, it was. Yes.
when you described it about getting the unemployment there, the first thing that flashed in my head was, and you probably know this movie, is History of the World.
No,
Where
I don't know that movie. No.
it was a Mel Brooks movie, and the scene was about a instead of being a comedian, he was a philosopher because they were talking about Roman times.
Oh, okay.
Going to collect his own unemployment and all. So
I'll have to look that one up.
yeah, and of course it was the lady who was doing the unemployment was B. Author, who was known for Golden Girls.
I know who she is. Yes.
Yeah, she goes, and what was your job? Philosopher. Ah, bullshit artist. Here's a week's.
Yeah.
Occupation?
Stand-up philosopher.
What?
Stand-up philosopher. I coalesce the vapor of human experience into a viable and logical comprehension.
Oh, a bullshit artist. Did you bullshit last week?
No.
Did you try to bullshit last week?
Yes.
Comicus! Comicus! Comicus!
Back in the line. Back in the line.
He's not in line. He's not in line. He's my agent, Swiftus.
Good news. I just got you a job.
Now that you're working, you won't be needing this.
Wait a minute. That money is mine.
I'm sorry. I'm on my wine break.
That gym in Santa Monica, was that the gym? Because I didn't know it have a name to it, but others have mentioned it, like Leslie Hoffman and gentleman we were just talking about.
A lot of people
going through that gym.
Stater's gym. Leslie was there. A lot of people. I can't. Back then, Vince Diedrich was there. He was doing $6 Million Man.
Okay.
And Paul Stater was doing all the Irwin Allen shows, so he would use guys out of the gym to do a lot of his shows. He's the one that owned the gym.
Oh, that makes sense. So when you are getting work or going to introduce yourself and such at different jobs and everything else, is it one of those with the stunt world, you say yes, I can do that. Then you go figure out a way to, okay, how am I going to do this and do it safely?
Well, when you're first doing stunts, you don't get any decent stunts. You get fall downs, you get pushed around and stuff like that. So you have to know how to fall without hurting yourself.
Yeah.
That's how it usually starts. Then after you get known in the business, you start getting a lot bigger stunts. And the only problem is if you say you can do it, you better be able to do it. There was one fellow who said he could ride a horse, and he thought all he had to do was get up on a horse and do something. Well, they had a whole scene around this guy riding a horse and found out he couldn't ride a horse. And after something like that happens, your name just goes in the toilet in the movie industry. So you better be able to do it and do it well.
Well, let's just say from some of the folks in the stunts, like the one I mentioned earlier, and there's another guy, I'll leave his name out during the recording process. It has told me stories through the years that's similar to that. And so, it's quite interesting.
A lot of times you have time in advance, but say, for instance, when I did the stair fall on Nightmare on Elm Street, no one had ever fallen down a flight of stairs before on fire. I mean, so I didn't exactly know everything I was going to do, but I helped oversee the building of the stairs and actually putting padding underneath it so there were no sharp corners that it would tear my suit on or anything such as that.
Absolutely. Well, we'll go there with Nightmare then, with that well, you did two known fire stunts, but we'll go with that first one there from the basement. And it was funny, I was doing a little homework, and obviously that was one of those, at the time, longest fire burns, at least of the year, if not for several years there. Because obviously you start around the corner, you go up chasing a stunt girl who was supposed to be Heathered, and you get knocked down and you start working your way up. And one of the conversations I heard with you, which was funny, but it makes total sense when I thought about it because of learning everything I've learned, is so you go back, you get knocked down with the door and all, and you start going back up, and it's like, hey, self, the way you described it, self, I might want to go down here because if I go all the way up, there's nobody to put me out. The safety folks off camera.
That's true.
So,
In fact, I told Wes originally, I said, when I fall down and get to the bottom of the stairs, I said, this is the spot where I'll end up. So they had a camera on that spot. I told him that's where I'd end up and that would be the end of the shot. But after I fell all the way down, I had enough time to milk it a little longer. So that's when I got up and started back up the stairs. And he had another side shot of me catching me going back up the stairs. Then halfway up the stairs, I recall, hey, there's nobody up there to put me out, so I better stop here. So I stopped halfway up the stairs and they put me out.
Right on. Now, obviously, the other fire stunt was on the bed and they do the sheet. I guess it's one of your famous wet sheets to help put you out.
Well, I always usually try to have two ways to put me out.
Okay.
In case one of them fails. There's always a secondary backup there.
Yeah. And what was your philosophy with that when you're, because like I said, you in the intro, it was safety first for you. So, and most credible stuntmen, because the one I'm not going to mention right here, who's well known, says he laughs at stunt people. They go, because you know how it goes, Tony, when you're standing around shooting the shit and I broke 5 bones. I broke a leg when I flipped the car. I did that. Guys, the machismo starts going. And the player X, and I'll tell you when we're not recording who it is, he goes, look at all these fools on a set or whatever it was, and goes, why would you brag about that? Isn't our job, we'll get our bumps and bruises and stuff, but isn't our job not to go home hurt?
Yes, our job is to be able to get up and do it a second time in case they miss the shot or something such as that. But, the older generation before me, they didn't go a lot with safety. The old cowboys and the old wranglers, they would do things a lot of times, a lot of different ways than we would do them. They still made precautions, like when you'd see an old cowboy fall off of a horse, the ground was dug up where he was going to fall off. But they didn't also have the small pads that we have nowadays. Or back when I was doing it, they got smaller and smaller. And now today, with the bicycle pads they use and such things as that, they can get pads that are almost so you can't tell them there's anything under your clothing.
Absolutely. And it seems like fire was your go-to, because I think somewhere I read, and we know everything online is true, Tony, just that year alone that you did Ghostbusters and Nightmare in 1984, there was something like you were hired for like 28 burns.
I did. I think that year I did 28 burns, but you figure a lot of them, like Nightmare on Elm Street was actually two different burns. The one on The Thing was actually 2 different burns. The Ghostbuster one was like 3 different burns. So often it's not just one burn, but I mean, they'll do a sequence of burns. There was one of them I did on LA Law where a guy was committing suicide. So the first thing you do, you see me pouring gas all over myself, and then you see me light myself on fire. That was a partial burn, just my leg burning. Then after that, they cut back to the scene in the courtroom. Then you come back to me, and I'm completely on fire. That was the second burn I did on a scene on LA Law. What was interesting, it was a scene about a guy committing suicide because so many jobs were going to foreign countries.
Oh boy, we can go so many different directions with that, but we won't at this moment. But we'll go stick with the fire stunts though. When you were, at least when they hired you as the coordinator, and or you would do some of these stunts, how did you go in planning? Okay, I have a budget of this. I want to do this. This is what they want to accomplish. But how do I do all this safely? But at the end of the day, I might be exhausted, all that stuff. But I'm going home. I'm not going to a burn unit.
Well, like I said, when I start out, I'll go back to Swamp Thing. When I did Swamp Thing on fire, I actually paced back and forth where I was going to run, where I was going to go out, and I made sure that I had safeties at the beginning where I was burning, at the middle, and at the end. And like I say, each safety usually has 2 ways of putting me out. Sometimes an extinguisher or a bucket of water with a blanket, something such as it was a permanent way to get put out. Every time I did a fire burn, I always tried to make sure it was as safe as possible because, like I say, burns last forever. It's not something where you can break something and go get it healed and then come back.
Yeah. And the cool thing I thought for you, as far as the safety precautions, and when I was doing my homework, was that because there you might, you know, be doing a stunt, let's say a fire stunt, and saying, help me, put me down, where the crew's like, okay, yeah, he's got 90 seconds, 120 seconds, whatever, just throwing numbers out there to do this burn because of how it was set up. So you used hand signals to say, okay, besides the obvious, you would go down to the ground, like you mentioned with the stair fall and all, you go down, you'd have different hand signals. So are these hand signals that you would use on set with the safety crew and all
these
universal, or was it something you go over with the crew you brought in to do these stunts?
Well, I usually try to bring in my own safety crew, and I try to use I use the hand signals all the time, because a lot of times there was a movie like I did The Soldier where I was on fire. You're crawling across the pavement screaming, put me out, and I don't want my safeties to come in and put me out till I actually give them a signal. I think one of the most times that I remember the most was on The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing. When I did the big fire burn on that was two fire burns. One of them was inside on a sound stage in Santa Monica. Then a month later, we were up in Alaska, and I did the one up in Alaska. And when I come through the building, crash out of the building on fire, and come out into the snow, I fall down and I die. Well, it was like, I think 10 below that day. I didn't feel any heat at all. So I didn't give any hand signals at all. And I could hear my safety saying on the side, is he all right? Is he all right? And I heard the other guy say, well, he hasn't signaled us to come in yet. And then finally I signaled for him to come in, and they put me out.
Yeah. And that's got to be tricky, like you said, when you're dealing with an environment that, you don't feel the difference. It's 10 below, but you're hot, obviously, because of the,
Yeah.
So, well, the obvious other famous burn, since we're on burns, is Stay Puft Marshmallow Man from Ghostbusters in 83. Now, or excuse me, 84. And for those who don't understand this, and we'll get into it, it wasn't just Tony doing Stay Puft, because there was puppeteers to do different shots. So Tony had done the climbing portion and the arm hitting and all that stuff in Santa Monica, correct?
Correct. I wasn't
the burn scene.
Yes.
Good. So, was it true that I heard you had some issues with the suit at first, because there was, again, 3 or 4 different types of burns you were doing?
Yes.
For the
Well,
camera?
they called me in to do the burn on that. I had worked with that fellow who was running that show on another show. I did a burn, and he called me in to do the burn. I didn't realize, but the day before, he had his son on to do the burn, and his son couldn't do the burn. His son panicked every time they caught on fire. So then they brought me in to do the show. They had already had Billy doing the part walking up to the bottom of the building, but he was a puppeteer, and he wasn't qualified to do the fire burn. So I had to do the fire burn on. My first concern was the fact that it was all like a plastic thing. So I wanted to make sure the Stay Puft wouldn't completely catch on fire. So I had them show me that the material that Stay Puft was made out of wouldn't burn. So they showed me that. So I felt safe with doing that. But then I wanted to wear my fire suit on the inside of the Stay Puft suit. And they said, well, you don't need to do that because we've made him fireproof. I said, no, I'll feel better if I do that. So I put my fire suit on, and I did the burn on the inside of it. And we had to do 3 different burns. I'm trying to think. I don't remember whether it was the first or the second one. One of them, the flames were too big. And when they seen it on film, when they looked at it the following evening, the fire was so big that it made Stay Puft look small, or didn't make him look as huge as he should be. So then we had to do the fire burn again. And the second time we got the flames to come down a little bit lower. But what we didn't count on the second time was the head split open and the inside of the head caught on fire that I had on. That's when I was glad I had my fire suit on. The outside was fireproof, but the inside, the glue started burning, and we stopped the shot there. And then I did it a third time. I don't remember whether it was that day or the next day. We did it over again, and that's the one that they actually used.
But it goes back to what you were saying about, feeling comfortable having your suit and on. Because, you can plan all you want, but when you have these different elements like fire or water or whatever we're trying to accomplish, there's stuff beyond our control that we want to have the safety precautions on the safety precautions.
Yes.
So,
well, a good example when I did Swamp Thing, I told the effects guy, I said, I don't want you to blast that door till after I crash through the railing coming out of on Swamp Thing. Well, he hit the button too soon just as I opened the door. And what happened is the soot from the explosion and back came around and clogged my vision up from where I was supposed to fall and run to the swamp. So because I walked back and forth, I don't know, 15, 20 times, I knew that as soon as I got up and my hand touched a tree there, I knew where the swamp was in front of me. And then I did the run all the way out and jumped into the swamp.
yeah. And so I guess you try to pace everything out no matter what set you were on so you knew where you were going in case you had elements of where you couldn't see and such.
Yes, I had that happen down also in Acapulco when I did Rambo First Blood when the cane field was on fire. They said, "Oh, you don't need to worry about the cane field. We couldn't get it to burn the other day." And I said, "Well, I still worry about stuff like that." I said, so I set my safe where I set my safeties up, and we did the first fire burn. All of a sudden, they set me on fire. The whole field took off on fire. Well, the day before they were in elephant grass, and they didn't know the difference between elephant grass and cane, and the whole field caught on fire, and they couldn't see me in the shot. There was too much smoke, and I heard my safety saying, "We can't get to him, we can't get to him." So I rolled over and over on my side till I got out of the field where my safeties put me out. Well, I spent I think it was another week down in Acapulco while they were transplanting sugarcane back to that field because they had already established the location, and we had to do the fire burn over again. This next time we did it over again, they took hose and watered down most of the sugar cane so it wouldn't catch on fire. That's when I did the fire burn as a guy in the cane field on fire on Rambo First Blood.
So has there ever been close calls for you that you're like, oh, thank goodness I could have been a lot worse than what I was thinking. Because there's one stunt guy I know and talk to often who's got a name to him. And he tells a story. His wife was in the industry as well, but she went on to have, as we say, a civilian job. And she happened to be coming by the set, just to visit or have lunch during his lunch break the one day. And he had just done a big stunt and a rope broke. And they go, all she sees, she's walking in the studio, the warehouse or the studio they're working in and going, "Oh my God, X is dead." What? What do you mean my husband is dead? He was good. He had bumps and bruises because, they had the crash pads and all that stuff for the high stunt he was doing. But it was like the rope wasn't secure. So he dropped like 20, 25 feet and hit and everybody thought, it's like, she goes, "That's it. I'm never coming to set to visit you again." But this one intern or whatever panicked right off the bat. So,
yeah.
Did you have any close calls with anything you've done through the years?
Yeah, I had a close call. I'll try to remember the name of the show. What happened was me and two guys were underneath this ramp that a car was supposed to go over on top, supposed to jump over our heads, and we look up. I did another thing similar on 10 Speed and Brown Shoes, but this was a different show. And anyhow, the car had missed the ramp and he kept going. So where one of us was supposed to bail off to the right and the other one to the left, all of a sudden the car was coming the way I was supposed to bail to. So I took the other guy and shoved him out of the way. Now it looked like I was saving his life, but I was also using his body to propel myself off to the right-hand side. I went down on the ground. The car came down. My leg was underneath the car, but we had soft sand there, and I pushed my leg down in the sand. The car ran over my leg, and then they ended up getting the shot done. I ended up going to the hospital. They checked me out. All I had was a bruise across my leg, and I came back.
Yeah, but that could have certainly been a lot worse.
A lot worse. That could have been a lot worse, yes.
Now, obviously, we were joking about the weather and stuff like that. You being in Ohio, I'm in Pennsylvania, etc. And obviously, you spent most of your career living out in the West Coast in California and such.
Yes.
And I was obviously joking with your daughter, and that we did as well with both of them on the episode we did from a convention while I was at, I should say. But what was your take with when they had friends come over? Because we were joking about how you had like some heads like from the thing and all. When they would come over, stuff would be in the living room. Did you have other parents question like, hey, what's that cat do for a living? Or it's LA, it's commonplace that people work in the.
Out in LA, that's kind of common. I mean, when you have friends come over, they usually know what you do for a living, and they see odd things like, I would be out in my backyard sometimes practicing. Burned. I had a burn I had to do on the Hulk, an arm on fire. So I was out in the backyard practicing my arm on fire and how I was going to do it and to make it safe so I would be able to put everything out and that. So they were kind of used to things like that.
Like it was Dad's just messing with fire again.
Yes.
Like every parent did that, right? Like, Dad's out back playing with.
The cowboys would go out and practice falling off of horses, or the car guys would rent cars and take them out to empty parking lots and practice sliding them and doing 180s and stuff like that. We're always constantly doing something like that.
Yeah, the one stunt guy we were talking about earlier, my niece said when I was just out in California, make sure you get on a horse. I said, that ain't happening. But we were laughing about when we were texting and all. I go, oh, by the way, my niece said this. He goes, you can hang out in a horse pen and feed them. I ain't putting you on I said, I wasn't asked to get on, but that's good call on you, sir.
The horse guys are all a breed of their own. I mean, it's tough to get in that racket. I mean, the cowboys back in the old Western days, they didn't let too many people in except their sons or their relatives.
Yeah. I respect the hell out of a horse. That is a big ass animal. I ain't mad. Yeah, no, thank you. You're right. You'd have to teach me to ride. I am not jumping on stunt horses, right? Thank you.
I practiced doing some saddle falls and some what they call reverse Cooper, flipping off backwards on horses. And me and a friend of mine had a couple horses, and we'd go out to his place and practice that. But I never got to do any of that in the movie industry.
Okay.
What I ended up doing when I ended up doing firework, I was after Beretta, I got to thinking, if I want to make a living in this business, I better find something that I can do better than anybody else, because not too many of the actors that are out there are my size. Most of them are tall and slim, and you have 6 foot tall guys doubling them all the time. And so I came up with, after I did a small show called Stunt Rock. I worked with a guy out of Australia with fire, and I learned how they were doing firework in Australia. And I started doing firework the same way in Los Angeles, and actually made my name in the movie industry of all the fire burns I'd done. And the way I could make it look more realistic. Prior to that, people would use great big asbestos suits to do a fire burn. I actually developed a way to do a fire burn in just like 2 sets of clothing to make it look realistic.
And now there's one person I heard talk with fire. They used was it like cement glue or something back in the day?
Yes.
Yeah, but they had an issue because the cement glue he goes, I was broke at the time. I got the cheapest stuff I could find, right? But then somebody else brought him like a different kind, so that people don't realize the material is. You have to know the material that you're using.
I've never used cement glue. I used to actually mix my own fuel up that I wanted to use, because a lot of times the directors would specify certain things. They would say, I want you to start slow, and as you start running, catch on fire, the fire to build up. And other ones would say, as soon as we start to film on you, we want you completely on fire. So I would change my fuel so it would burn rapidly or it would start out slowly.
Right on. So obviously we talked about Nightmare, Ghostbusters, some of the big projects, but what was it like for you? And could you maybe talk about building the relationship you had with Wes Craven? Because I think you did something like 16 different projects
I
just
did,
for him
I think,
alone.
16 or 17 shows with Wes. We started out on Swamp Thing. What happened on Swamp Thing is someone on the crew got busted for drugs, and he got fired, or went to jail, and we were going to have to stop filming. I was in the Directors Guild as the second AD, and I was there to do the fire burn. I had just done the big fire burn for Wes, and they were going to have to close the show down because of this drug bust on the show. Well, I ended up calling the Directors Guild and asking them. I said, "Can you take our second AD, or we be allowed to take the second AD and move him up to a first AD and bring me in as a second AD on the show and continue filming without stopping?" And they said, "Yeah, no problem." Well, the second AD was Todd Corman. So they moved him up to the first AD and brought me in as the second AD. So we got to finish the show. And after that, I became pretty good friends with Wes. And Wes, from then on, used me on, I think it was 16 or 17 of his different shows as the stunt coordinator. We became good friends. We used to play racquetball 2 days a week together, both of us, to try to keep in shape.
And I never had a chance to interact with Wes, but have dealt with many people who have along the way, such as yourself, such as Amanda West, and others down the line from the different projects he's done. Would you say what you hear is true about him, that he was such an articulate guy, and was it what people expected of him because of stuff he did, like from Last House of the Left, the Swamp Thing, Nightmare, yeah, Scream, the whole thing? Was he different and actually an articulate guy, would you say, compared to what you hear and expect of him going into?
He was quiet. He was not he didn't joke around a whole lot. He actually used to be a English teacher, I believe, before
Yes.
he got into it, and he's very well read. My kids used to call him Uncle Wes all the time because he'd come out to the house sometimes for Christmas or for a birthday or something like that. He was a very easygoing fellow. One of the guys that helped make me in the movie industry. He helped a lot of people in the industry get started. I mean, I think it was Ving he used on People Under the Stairs. D. Wallace, I think he used on the first House on the Left or something like that. He ended, well, look at Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp wouldn't have had that job if it wouldn't have been for Wes.
Yeah.
He
Well,
picked up a lot of
rumor
people.
has it was Wes's kid, but we'll give Wes the credit, you know.
Yeah, it was Wes's daughter.
Yes. Uh, Dad, he's so dreamy, is the quote I've heard, but
Yeah.
Sure he is. Don't float my boat. I'll have a beer with you, but that's as far as we go. Uh,
And he was such a
so,
bad actor that we actually had a coach along there with him all the time on Nightmare on Elm Street.
well, the funny thing, I heard the one time I talked to Robert in like 2014 or something, was joking about Johnny, and he ended up putting it in his book as well. Robert did, and saying that because Johnny at the time was, when he was making that transition, he was a musician and apparently had his Christmas decorations still up, and it was March, and it was the dead tree and all this. Yeah, I might want to do something else, kind of deal.
Well, he got his big break when he went on 21 Jump Street.
Jump Street.
Canada, he got to hone his craft a lot up there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you definitely learn your styles when you go to TV and movies and everything else. But when did you decide, hey, enough's enough? We'll call it a career. But also, how are you feeling? Because obviously, 45 years is a long time. And like I said, you're going to have your bumps and bruises along the way and just the nature of the beast. So, how are we feeling overall at this point?
Well, I'm feeling all right. I got out of the business at the right time. I mean, after a while, the bumps and the bruises take longer for them to heal. No matter what you say, I mean, no matter how you pad yourself up, if you do falls after a while, even a regular fall on the ground when you get a little older, it takes a little longer for it to stop hurting.
Absolutely. So obviously, I know you do shows like Horror Hound, and you've been invited to multiple shows, and your girls are starting to do shows now as well. And I'm hoping I can help out with that with them based on conversations we've had. But the shows you've done so far, what kind of reaction are you getting from the fans that come and see you guys? And do you have any interesting stories that they like to tell you?
Well, they always want to know how I got started in the business and about all of Wes's shows, what happened on different ones of Wes's shows. Like I say, the next one I'm going to be doing is Whorehound, which is next month in out of Cincinnati. And then after that, the following month, I'm doing one of them over in England, where's Manchester, England.
Okay. Yeah, is that big one I've heard about from people in Manchester?
Yes, it's called For the Love of Horror.
Yes, yes, yeah. I had a couple people in like the Friday series and all gone over, and they're going again, and they say that, well, from what I've heard from them, you will enjoy Manchester because they do it right over there. Because you know if a show does it right,
yeah,
and you will know if a show does it wrong. But For the Love of Horror, and Monopoly Promotions do an excellent thing. They're not a paid sponsor, but I've heard nothing but good with them.
A good job of promoting.
Yeah.
What I can say for a lot of shows back here.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not going to bury anybody on, but I've dealt with good and bad promoters of shows. Yeah. The few interactions I've had with them. And Monopoly, who does The Love of Horror over there in Manchester, excellent time. They treat everybody with great class and all that stuff. So obviously I will share those links as well for those shows.
So why haven't they done any shows in Australia?
Oh, they haven't, huh?
Not that I know of.
You know what? Now that you say that, I don't think I've heard of anything. That would be interesting. Because I had a few fans through the years come from Australia, and yeah, it's funny you say that because there would be they would love the horror films of different eras and stuff, and people like it's not as big, I don't think, culturally over there.
Well, what I hear here is there are some shows that say, "Oh, we don't take stunt people." Well, they don't realize that a lot of the shows. I mean, Kane Hodder was a stuntman. Dick Warlock was a stuntman. Dick Durock on Swamp Thing was a stuntman. A lot of these shows, people have started out as, as the villains are usually stunt people. And some of these shows here in the United States, well, we don't want you because we're looking for actors. We don't want stunt people on the shows.
But the thing is, with the stunt performers and actors and such, it's you guys that make everybody look good.
Well, yeah, but the actors don't want to admit to that. Come on, the actors want you to think as you're watching the show, it's them. I mean, if you look at Nightmare on Elm Street, I mean, there's an awful lot of screen time that I've got on there from other than the fire burn, the falling down the steps is me, the getting hit with a sledgehammer going over the railing is me. Coming through the mirror and fighting with Heather on the bed. I'm actually fighting with the stunt girl, and once we roll off the edge of the bed, that's when Robert and the actress get into it.
Absolutely. Because of and I'll make this the last question. With the actors, let's say, they would be up for royalties and this, that, and the other, because it's their face or whatever most of the time that sell a movie. But like I was saying, guys like you and gals make the ship sail per se. Do they make it available for you guys to get like the kickbacks and stuff? And I'm not asking numbers, none of that stuff, but
we all get royalties.
Have that opportunity for residuals and stuff?
All the stunt people are on the same contract that actors are on. So you get royalties on it. And over time, the royalties just kind of go down and down and down. But we still get royalties. I still get royalties on The Thing, I get royalties on Nightmare on Elm Street. I get royalties on Ghostbusters. Not as much as I used to because they keep going down year after year. But all stunt people are in the same union that the actors are in. We have no union, or there are several groups of stunt people, but they're all in the Screen Actors Guild, and they all work under the Screen Actors Guild contract.
Oh, that's good to hear, because I wasn't sure how that worked. And you'll appreciate this because what you just said. There's some actors that I'm very friendly with, and they get a royalty check, right, in the mail every quarter, or whatever it is. Let's say 15 cents, but it costs you 73 and whatever it costs to print the check.
I got one of them this last week for 7 cents from a Perry Mason, and out of that they took I think 3 cents taxes out of that 7 cent check.
Yeah, it's like, why did you bother sending a check? Like, let's do it at the end of the year, so it's $1.23 or something, right? You know, like you chuckle, and some will put it on social media and go,
taping must be atrocious on books, on movies, on doing that. And the thing of it is, if we find out they've failed to pay us on something, then they have to pay triple damages. I think that's still in the Screen Actors Guild contract.
Can we forget some of those quarterly checks so we get the triple? So at least I get $5 and I get a Big Mac meal. You know, come on, like, and a coffee. Boy, Tony, I thank you for sitting down and chatting. I've had so much fun. I've been looking forward to talking to you for years.
You're welcome.
Because I'm one of those behind the scenes nerds that look at the whole picture, not just the, star of the show. So this was truly an honor, sir.
Been a pleasure talking to you.
Hey folks, looking for the ultimate destination for the nerd enthusiasts and collectors? Well, we found the spot for you. Nerds Nest Collectibles is a haven for nerds, geeks, and fans alike, as they have many different products and certainly more to come. Make sure you go ahead and visit them at nerdsnestcollectibles.com. Check them out.
Hi, this is Amanda Wist, and you're listening to Crazy Train Radio.